All right, I don't know what time it is on your clock, but I know what I'm getting ready for. It is time for the Professional CISO Podcast with David Malicoat.
Welcome, one and all, to the Professional CISO Podcast. I'm your host, David Malicoat. This show is an exploration of the topics necessary to professionalize the role of the CISO. All righty, gang. Today, a little bit different. We have an interview with one of the top attorneys in cybersecurity and privacy. His roots are in the law, so he has been an attorney his entire career, all the way from the start. I even looked back as far as I could in the old time machine. I couldn't find anything else. So now, couple notable things about our guest. He has 6 kids, so holy smokes, somebody that's got me beat, which, more power, ranging from the age of 28 to 8. And then he has a granddaughter, so we share that. I have 3 grandkids myself. Neither of us look old enough to have any grandchildren, I will say that.
Thank you.
And he also has a grand pig, Mabel, and I love it. He's also avid in fitness, got a great garage gym that I'm hearing, getting out there, sweating it out, really trying to manage that longevity. Obviously, we want to be able to do those great things for a long time, and I admire that because I'm the same way. We're looking at it from a long-term perspective. All right, gang. The other thing I want to talk about is we have a huge reminder. So by the time we hear this, Digital Fight Club will have been recorded. So it's tomorrow from the day of this recording. And so big thing is I don't want you to miss it. It's going to come out sometime in the fall, I believe. National television. It's episode 1 of 4 that's coming out. I think they're going to do a marketing one. They're going to record a marketing one in New York City sometime in the fall as well. So it's going to be out on television, kind of this limited series type thing. I know a lot of folks that are coming, looking out for it. It's going to be a blast. The other cool part is we are recording there in the after party. So Digital Fight Club, the Professional CISO Podcast, we're going to record 2 episodes there, roughly about 45 minutes each. We're really going to get reactions, right? So we want folks coming out of that fight, hot off the topic, maybe a beer in their hand, it's okay, and then get the reactions. Like, what was it like? What did you think of it? How good were the fights? How good were the refs asking their questions? So, I think we have an episode with Mike Pratt on exactly what Digital Fight Club is, so that's all good. So we'll be there getting those reactions. Definitely want to say a special thank you to both Armis and Interpret Security because they are our sponsors for those 2 episodes, and look forward to working with them moving forward. And then a couple of different shout outs that we have. So recently started kind of partnering up with North Texas ISA, and so believe they are the largest ISA chapter in the country. And so I'll be moderating a panel at the North Texas ISA Lunch and Learn on Thursday, July 18th at 11 a.m. at Maggiano's in Plano. And the topic will be platform or best of breed, which should be an interesting conversation coming up. And then also they have their 12th annual North Texas ISA Cybersecurity Conference. And that's going to be on September 6th from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It'll be held at the Plano Event Center there in Plano, Texas. There'll be some more information coming, obviously just kind of out on all the social channels, but we'll cover it here as well. We will be participating in that in some form or fashion. More to come. So now let's talk about being a professional CISO. In today's episode, our guest is Shawn Tuma. He is currently the co-chair of the Cybersecurity and Data Privacy Practice Group at Spencer Fane, LLP. He has held positions at numerous law practices. I think it's a building of a career is what I could tell, from going up the chain there on the LinkedIn. He's currently serving on several advisory positions to include the Cyber Future Foundation, with Val over there, recall, right? He's also on the Northwestern State Business School Advisory Board, and he was the past chair of the Texas State Bar Association Computer and Technology Council. So anything legal in technology and cybersecurity, Shawn Tuma is the guy. So please welcome Shawn Tuma.
Thank you very much, David. Pleasure to be here.
Great stuff. All right, so I want to get it. You're my first attorney on the show, so I definitely want to give you an opportunity to do your attorney disclaimer. Do you want to go ahead and roll with that?
Yeah, what we're talking about here today is more hypothetical in nature, and it's for teaching purposes, and it's not specific legal advice. and you should turn to your own legal counsel for specific legal advice on these issues.
Love it. I had thought about saying that myself, but I obviously couldn't have put it nearly as
you didn't
concise.
need to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no. Yeah, I think
and there's no billable component.
Love it. All right, so we always have the human side of this. So because it is technology, we do this thing, right? But in the end, it's all people.
Yeah.
And what I love to do is get right out of the gate, kind of get that arc for you, right? So as we said, you were an attorney from the very beginning. Kind of talk me through where you became intersected with technology and cybersecurity and privacy as you came along in your career, even, if it started early and maybe you saw it later. So
yeah,
talk to us.
No, this is great. So I actually became interested in technology and the law in my second year of law school when I was tasked with studying and learning everything there was possible to learn about an upcoming legal issue that would be hot when I graduated.
Mm.
And then we were tasked with writing a professional journal article about it, peer review article, and then publishing that upon graduation to kind of give us a little head start in our career. And this was 1998. And my topic, it was 97, 98. My topic was Y2K. So I got in on the Y2K litigation issues and studied all the laws, wrote a 50-page law review article, and then had multiple law schools want to publish it once I graduated. And Texas Tech said, hey, not only do we want to publish this, we want you to be the featured speaker at our tech conference.
Wow.
In 2000. So, number one, I'm scared to death to speak in public at this point, but who's going to pass up this opportunity,
yes.
right? So my topic was Y2K litigation, and it was on April Fool's Day, April 1st of 2000. And all I could do is stand in front of the audience and say, there's still a chance. There's still a chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
And you're telling me there's a chance. And so, it just flatlined, right? And then I got into internet contracting. Could you have a contract over the internet? Wrote a couple articles about that. A couple of courts cited them. That looked like it was picking up steam. Then this thing called the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act came out and said, of course you can. Next issue. So then I got into more of the computer fraud stuff, working on some accounting fraud cases as a young attorney. And then that in the mid-2000s kind of dawned on me. Had my first data breach in 2001, dealing with healthcare information, and no one knew what to do, including me. We stumbled our way through it. But then it started hitting me that with every computer fraud type act, there was somebody's data being impacted. And so then I got to the data breach side of things. 2011, I wrote an article, Is This the Year of the Data Breach? Thought that was going to be the watershed moment. It wasn't. It wasn't until Target, Home Depot.
Right.
And then that led to me working mostly as a breach quarterback type role, guiding companies through that incident response investigation process, notification, and all of that, and kind of led to where I'm at now.
So it sounds to me like you were one of the pioneers. Like you basically led that charge, so to speak, by the nature of the happenstance almost of how your career went. You landed there, but that's pretty early.
I'm an old guy.
That's not where I was going.
I've been in it a long time. A lot of what I've done over my career, there hasn't been precedent. There haven't been rules for. Written a lot of it, learned a lot of it, some the hard way, but it's taught me a lot of humility, in that sometimes none of us know what the real answer is, but based on our experience, our knowledge, our judgment, we're in the best position of anyone. So we can't give you the answer, but no one can.
Right.
So we have to just give you our best guess and rely on our judgment and obviously caveat it with that, right? But sometimes when people need help, there is no absolute answer.
Right. There's no checklist. There's no playbook.
That's right.
Right.
And so you've got to call on your judgment and your experience to help guide you through that.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So I always like kind of the standard question. And I will say, I think I know what the answer is going to be based upon our interaction so far, as well as, your support that you've provided the show on LinkedIn, things like that. But professionalizing the role, right? So you're sitting on the outside, right? So, but you know a lot of CISOs. You interact with quite a few. You interact with a lot of general counsels, as we've discussed. So are we looking to the need of professionalizing the role? And if so, what does that mean to you from your perspective?
I think we do need to professionalize the role. Number one, it's worthy of it. Okay, look, there is, in my view, no greater risk to a company these days, practically speaking, than cyber risk. Cyber risk.
Can I stop you there real quick? But why? Like, maybe you're getting ready to say it.
Tell you.
Sorry.
That is the one risk where right now you and I can sit here talking about how great the company's doing. Profits are up, production's up, everything's running smoothly. And tonight at 11 a.m., the CISO has to make a call to the CEO saying we're shut down.
Right.
Or maybe not we're shut down. Maybe our number one supply chain provider that we count on is shut down. Now we are shut down. That is a role. I mean, the catastrophic level of impact that security has these days, it is deserving of being right up there at the top of the C-suite, because it is existential for the company if you get it wrong. And the problem is there's no guarantees in security, right? So we need someone in that role that has all those attributes I talked about earlier, the experience, the judgment. I go back and forth on whether we need technical expertise or management expertise or, obviously business expertise is critical. I think the best CISOs are going to have a combination of all of that.
Right.
They're not going to be too in the weeds, but they're going to understand it. They're going to see the strategic big picture. And then they're going to be receptive to the advice and guidance of those around.
Do you ever find or think that as these things get added to the role of the CISO, right? Because, we talk about the technology side of things, and then we're talking more about the risk side of things. Now we're talking about the general business side of things. As all these things kind of lump underneath, do you ever think that the breadth gets too wide?
Yeah. I think back to, what is, that goes to the fundamental question, what is the role of the CISO, right?
Right.
And I think back to when I used to try to describe to people what I did as a breach quarterback. And I said, I don't do any of those skills, but I'm like the conductor of a symphony, right? And then we fast forward to the Equifax breach. Remember when it came out that the CISO for Equifax was a music major in college, and everyone freaked out.
Lost their mind.
And I did also. And then as I thought more about it, I thought, what does a music major learn to do? They learn to see the big picture, very strategic in their view. They're not playing the instruments, but they're oftentimes coordinating the whole team and managing it to create this symphony, right? Maybe there's some value to that kind of thing, And so I think we need to do a lot of soul searching on and here's something else too. We're painting with a very broad brush. A CISO in a multinational corporation, that's all over the world has one role. A CISO in a mid-sized company, where they're handling a lot more. They're going to have a much different role. So, right? So maybe that's two different people that are good at one role but not good at that other because of their different skill set.
Right.
So I think we have to start off, like with anything in cyber, with our assessment and understanding what are we trying to accomplish? What's this role we're trying to fill, and is our CISO a good fit for that particular role?
Got it.
So yes and no. So, God, I left off the best lawyer answer ever, right? It depends.
It depends.
I'm failing in my role.
That's all right. I got the human side of Shawn Tuma.
Yeah.
And so if you kind of project in the future a little bit, right? Where do you see the role going, or where do you think the role should go, right? If we were talking let's say you and I are just sitting here talking and we're on a committee and we're charting that path of what that should look like. What do you think are some of those aspects that should be important?
My own personal view
Yes.
is I think it should. I think the CISO is such a critical role in the organization. They should have a role reporting directly to the board because the board needs to hear it from them. They need to get the unvarnished truth. I don't know that that's going to necessarily happen. I'm a big fan of seeing CISOs that report to the legal department because legal understands the world of uncertainty. They understand the risk, and they're not beholden to anyone else in the C-suite other than the CEO generally.
Right.
You know, so I think we're going to see that more. Obviously, we need to get CISOs appointed into roles on the management team that's going to get them coverage under their D&O
Yes.
policies. You know,
Yes.
that's a big part. So I think we're going to see an elevation of their importance, and having a direct line to report things that really matter.
I'm a firm believer in everybody walking away from any episode of this podcast have some tangible takeaway items that they could go implement over the next day, week, month, whatever that looks like, or at least to keep it in mind as they go about their career. What for those CISOs or those folks that are bucking to be CISOs, what are areas that they should be developing themselves as this thing grows and evolves? Where do you think, again, from the incident quarterback, breach quarterback position, what are some of those areas that we need to be developing as CISOs?
Business acumen, understanding the world of business and risk, because a lot of CISOs come from technical backgrounds where things tend to be ones and zeros a lot of times.
Right.
And in the world of business and risk, it's rarely a 1 or a 0. It's always a judgment call. And so understanding how the business side sees things is really, really critical. Understanding how they value money and how they value, resilience from not a network sense, but from a business sense.
Right.
Of maybe we're going to take some losses, but that's okay because we're going to make some gains over here. To a business leader, that's perfectly fine. Right. To someone in cyber, that's horrible because what if this leads to this, and we're taken down, right? So just understanding that perspective, right? Developing a great relationship with their legal team. To me, that is critical. There has to be communication. You have to be understanding. You have to understand each other's perspective and value that. Leadership is critical both pre-incident and post-incident. When I talk about incidents, by the way, I'm not talking about incident response within the security team that goes on a daily basis. I know nothing about handling that. I'm talking about the more catastrophic type. We're in the news, this happened stuff.
Right.
But understanding how to manage that takes leadership because people are scared. They usually haven't been in that situation before. And you've got to have the right demeanor and the right sense of urgency, but at the same time, sense of calmness to keep your people on the same team and working together. Those are all skill sets that I think are incredibly valuable on top of their technical understanding of their environment and what's going on in their tools. And I guess maybe the biggest one of all, David, is strategy. Understanding the need for strategic viewpoint, strategic perspective, because a lot of the cases we see, it's not a lack of tools. It's not a lack of cyber defenses or even people. It's that you had one tool doing one thing, another doing another, and you had this little gap in between it that nobody saw.
Right.
And the threat actors will find it every time. And so stepping back and seeing the big picture, the head coach, the whole playing field,
Right.
I think is critical.
So I want to pull on a thread because you were talking about the relationship with the general counsel, and in one of our conversations leading up, it was about perspective. It's about understanding one another. So can you talk to me kind of on both sides of that equation, right? So again, those actionable items, what can CISOs specifically do to get on the radar and have a great relationship with their general counsel, and vice versa? If there's general counsels listening, how do they understand their CISO?
Yeah. The first step is to understand we're all very busy. So none of us really want more meetings or more tasks put on our plate, right? We want to simplify what we're doing, not make it more complex. So from the outset, nobody wants to have to do more, but reach out to them. Let them know, hey, I understand what you're trying to do. What I'm trying to do is the same thing. We're a lot like, right? We're both managing risk. We're both managing threats against the organization. We're both viewed as cost centers, you know? And
that's a good point.
There's the challenges we face, there aren't absolute answers. There's no guarantees in law. There's no guarantees in security. So use that as a foundation to say, hey, I know, number one, cybersecurity is a legal issue. Okay. The foundation of compliance is complying operations to the legal requirements. A lot of those compliance requirements come from contracts. Your in-house counsel, your outside counsel are entering contracts all the time that impact cyber, that involve cyber privacy type issues. Offer to be a resource. Say, hey, please include me in this. I want to weigh in, or have someone on my team who can or whatnot. Talk to them about cyber insurance. Ask how you can have a bigger role, both in the procurement side, and once you get that policy, you've got to factor and build your incident response planning around the requirements of your policy. Ideally, you will know those requirements ahead of time to get a policy that suits your needs, not vice versa, right? Those are two things. Talk about wanting to understand their concerns, what they're trying to manage and where they see security, and use that. You got to build a dialogue. Really is what you got to do. You got to have coffee together, because you're going to learn things that you don't know. They're going to learn things that they don't know, and you're kind of the two defenders of the organization.
Right.
Team up.
Got it. Love it. Okay, so you're writing a book.
You want to guess what it's about?
I think we led perfectly into it, which is the relationship between the CISO and the general counsel, yes?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so one is, why are you writing it? Let's talk about that first.
Because over the years, I've seen such a disconnect. I've seen, one of my favorite stories that I tell is about a year ago, I was in the back of a Uber in St. Louis, and I get a call from an in-house legal counsel. And they said, we've had a ransomware attack. It's impacted a couple of our servers. We know they've stolen data. Can you tell us what our legal obligations are? And I said, well, it depends, right? I was very, stern. I mean, I wasn't flippant with them, but I said, I can tell you what the federal laws are, and I can tell you what the state laws are for your jurisdiction, but what do your contracts say?
Yeah.
And they said, well, how am I supposed to know that? I said, how am I supposed to know that? I'm not clairvoyant. I don't know what your contracts say. You have more law written into your contracts, your law between the parties, than all of the statutory law out there. If you don't know your contracts, who does? You've got to spend some long hours tonight figuring out what they say, because your number one business partners may have 24-hour requirements for notice. Your key supplier agreements, whatever. You got to figure that out. And it really hit me that there's so little communication between legal and security. And then when I talk with CISOs and I ask them, have you discussed this with your legal counsel? No, they don't deal with cyber stuff. I'm like, what about all this? What about these compliance programs? What about... And I've just found over the years, especially in the incident response process, legal hasn't been consulted on the incident response planning. legal hasn't been included in the tabletops and the trainings. The company policies haven't been factored into a lot of this. And, there's this disconnect. And so I want to try to do something I don't know all the answers,
of course,
but to help start the dialogue and give them some places to start visiting and learning from each other.
So the intent of the book, bring them together. Are there sections that you're planning for both? Or is it kind of like, if I'm a CISO, I can pick up your book and I'll be like, do I have my own section, or is it you get kind of both in each chapter? What's the layout look like?
So it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I've spent 25 years now working with legal, obviously,
mm-hmm.
and in-house legal departments, and working with CISOs for most of those years at this point, or many now. I've learned a lot from each of them, and I'm trying to in a way be like that Rosetta Stone that helps one see things that the other may be missing.
Got it.
And so there are parts that are written to help legal understand some security things that may go by them. There are parts written to help CISOs understand some things that are legal by nature that they hear about, but and it's not a reference. It's not like a legal analysis.
Right.
But it's talking points.
Right. And so can you give us, when is the target date for completion?
So the target date for completion is September. Wow. Yeah.
Pretty aggressive.
So it's pretty aggressive. And look,
you were saying that you're like, your family's out of town, you're locked down.
Yeah, I've been locked down for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just
pounding it out.
And look, it's going to need refinement.
Of course.
Right? But my point is not to come out with something beautiful necessary. It's to come out with something useful.
Functional.
And a handbook, something they can pick up and say, or a bridge builder, right?
Right.
So that my friends in the in-house community can take it to their CISO and give them a copy and say, hey, let's look at this. And
let's use this as a means to build that bridge.
Or vice versa.
Love
Exactly.
it. I love it. Well, so thrilled that you were able to share that with us and that you're working on it. I think it, we talked about it earlier, outside of the interview, where we talked about the idea that, you hear the advice all the time. Yeah, your general counsel should be your best friend as a CISO, right? Or your first option. But nobody talks about how you do that, right? And so Shawn Tuma is going to fill that gap, right?
Well, I'm going to try to get started.
I think with your experience and what we've learned so far about you, you're one of the prime candidates that would be able to get it done from my perspective. So definitely looking forward to that.
I feel better about it already.
There you go. All right, so we're kind of coming up on time a little bit. Always going to reserve the for you to always come back, right? So, I think I already said I require that when this is published.
Yes.
Because then we'll talk about the book, I'll read it, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll dive deep into it. But in the end, you know what time it is.
I know what time
it's 10 questions. All right. So, Shawn Tuma, 10 questions. What's your favorite word?
My favorite word? I guess it probably depends. Because everything's deeper beneath the surface.
Of course. I'm not going to provide any commentary. I love that. What is your least favorite word?
Least favorite is probably it depends when it's coming back at me.
I can understand that. What area of your work do you find most interesting?
Oh, the advisory. The advisory to my friends in the CISO community. I love that part of it.
Love it.
Pre-breach.
Of course.
Pre-breach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, the other one, it's
not good for
It's not fun. Necessary, but not fun.
Yeah.
Got it. What area of your work do you find the most challenging?
Definitely the incident response with sophisticated companies, because many times people are looking to me for answers that nobody really knows.
Right.
And so it requires a lot of teamwork.
Right. Yeah.
And a receptive team under pressure.
Right. When
the CEO is yelling and the board's yelling and reporting requirements are coming up.
Yeah. Understood. What sound or noise do you love?
Sound of noise.
Sound or noise.
Or noise. Oh, I love classical music. I work to classical music.
Yes. Love it.
And hard rock,
Well, of course.
if I'm in my garage.
Yes. Sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, my wife's Roomba. Oh, my goodness. When that thing goes off, it's like fingernails on chalkboard.
Love it. What's your favorite curse word?
Damn.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Bartender on a beach.
There you go. Little Jimmy Buffett action going on there. Love it. What,
Or for older people like us. You remember Tom Cruise?
oh, yeah.
Cocktail.
No,
Yeah.
there was, so sometimes on like MTV Classic, you'll have the 80s, right? And it came on, the Beach Boys came on the other day, Kokomo,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
And I just looked at, I was just sitting there watching, I was like,
And that's
what a time.
That's right about the time Malibu rum became popular. Oh, I can just smell it.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah, love it. What profession would you not like to do?
honestly, I wouldn't want to be a CISO right now.
We could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's a no-win. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
And nobody understands the odds you're up against and the challenges you face. Is very thankless right now.
And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear your God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done, my faithful servant.
Everyone, Shawn Tuma. All right, so in this episode, covered a lot, obviously, right? So obviously, the nature of the show, professionalism of CISO, but Shawn's got a book coming out, number 1. Do you have a title yet, working title yet?
I don't. I have like 10 different ideas that I'm bouncing around.
Okay.
And I figure at the end,
Oh, yeah, usually that's how it works, right? You write it and then it goes. Yeah. But covered, Shawn's coming out with a book, and it's the topic is having a conversation or relationship around the general counsel to CISO and vice versa. I think it's much needed, and so we truly appreciate the effort that you're doing there. I know it's very hard to kick the family out of the house for a couple of weeks and get it done, but I'm looking forward to it. Colleagues and friends, I renew the call. It's time to professionalize the role of the CISO. In the meantime, I wish you health, happiness, and success in your journey in becoming the professional CISO. Let's do this.
We're professionalizing the CISO role, so please subscribe to the Professional CISO Podcast.